Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Vulnerable Books Podcast. I am LaShawn, your host, and Happy New Year, friends! Happy New Year! I am so glad to be out of 2025. 2025 was not the best. But anyway, I hope that you had a wonderful holiday break and had a chance to rest and relax and read every book that you wanted. I hope that you got lovely bookish gifts and that all your bookish dreams came true. It is finally January, and for the last 2 weeks, I've watched a discourse online that comes every year about this time where it's always about how many books people are reading and that you couldn't possibly have read that many books and that you can't possibly have a job if you've read that many books and blah blah blah. And it every year it's like the same bots, the same people come on and have the same hot take, and I'm tired. Sometimes I feel like book talk, book threads, and bookstagram. Well, not so much bookstagram, but the book universe, the book internet is just one big hot take on these internet streets. Although I will say that most of my timeline these last couple of weeks has been dominated by Heated Rivalry, which was a lovely surprise. I read Heated Rivalry and The Long Game last summer, I believe. I never bothered to read the rest of the series because I was really just obsessed with Shane and Ilya. And which it was a worthy obsession. And I wasn't going to watch the series because you know how I feel about books. My good books go to the series, but I kept hearing good things. And like I said, I hate a book to screen retelling, an adaptation, but this was actually a prime example of what every single adaptation, romance or whatever, of a book should be doing. It was damn near perfect. I mean, perfect. And now there is going to be a second and a third season. And so I went ahead and read the rest of the series, the rest of the books in the series, and was just delighted by every book. Like, delighted. Someone asked why everyone was so obsessed. And the real reason, besides, the asses, I mean, they were, lots of cheeks and the sex scenes, is that this is what romance readers have been trying to tell y'all. It's more than the smut. Like, literally in this series, it was only the first 2 episodes was really all the smut, but it's the misunderstanding, it's the yearning, it's the love, it's the happily ever after that comes after you see the two characters go through so much. It was just chef's kiss. And I love that my entire timeline is still Heated Rivalry, and rather than other shenanigans and foolishness that is going on in the world right now. So it's a lovely break, and I love that everyone got into it and had that little bit of joy. Anyway, today's episode, I want to talk to you about my bookish goals for the new year and 8, I believe. Yes, I have 8. 8 of my most anticipated books for the year. I was going to do 10, but I'm going to be honest with you and say I couldn't decide between the last 2. So 8 it is. I had too many choices, and I was like, listen, if I keep dilly-dallying, I will never get this done. So let's go ahead and start with my bookish goals for 2026 because I do have them. I decided not to make a numerical goal this year for the first time in, frankly, forever since I started making bookish goals. I did put an arbitrary number in Goodreads for some reason, but I don't really actively use Goodreads, so I don't know why I bothered. But I will say that I plan to use Goodreads to review and rate books by authors of color because I know that that is what a lot of publishers use to gauge interest in books and to judge how well a book is doing. But other than that, I'm not. I have no plans to use it. I'm just going to stick with the story graph because I love the story graph. I love all the stats I get from it, and I just like the interface better. And it's owned by a Black woman, so that's that. But anyway, let's get into my reading goals for 2026. It is 2026, right? Okay. Number 1, to not read more than 3 books at a time. I cannot start a new book after I get to 3 without finishing or DNFing something. Now, let me say, I can literally have 5 or 6 books going at once. I've done it. I did it all last year, but it's stressful. It's not, contrary to popular opinion, it's not hard to keep up with. It's just that what ends up happening is a book will be really good and I'll get distracted. And then I'll never go back to that book or I forget about that book. And then I end up saying pause, because in Storygraph you can say you pause a book, you can say you DNF a book, and I'll end up pausing a book because I'm like I just can't, or even I totally forget about it. Like I start reading something else and forget about one of the books, and because I noticed that at the end, and that happened a lot with library books. That is one of my goals. I had a system where I would have a physical book, a Kindle book, and a audiobook going at the same time, and that works for me. But like I said, last year I kind of went crazy and stopped my little system, and that's where I messed up. So I'm going to go back to that because even I cannot juggle all the things. And plus I have a little bit more going on now, and I just need to just go ahead and succeed and let that go. Number 2, my second goal is to read The Odyssey by Homer. Yes, it's one of those books that I think I read pieces of in high school because I know the story, and I'm like, I don't know where I learned it from, but I know like some of the stories in the books, but I've never read the entire book as a whole. I've never read the entire thing. So my goal this year is to read it, especially since there is an epic movie coming out this summer, I think. I've seen the casting and I'm like, this looks good. And if you know me, I like to read a book before I watch the movie. And plus, it's just time. It's a classic, and I really want to read more classics or reread them because a lot of classics I haven't read since high school, and this will get me out of my comfort zone. So that's my second goal. My third goal is to read the books I own from my bookshelf or Kindle. Specifically, I want to read at least 12. Listen, my Kindle is a graveyard of books. Someone I was following was talking about a Regency romance that I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I went to Amazon just to see what it was about. And then, I was going to go over to Thrift Books and get it because it's an older book. And lo and behold, I own said book on my Kindle. And apparently, I own the entire series that the book is a part of. Who knew? I'm like, that's 6 books right there that I ain't read. I saw that and I said, I have to read from my Kindle this year. As of now, as of today, there are 165 unread books on my Kindle, including 33 advanced reader copies. Let's not even talk about the unread ones, the unlistened to ones on Libro FM. So my goal is to make a dent into these this year. Please and thank you. My fourth goal for the year is to put a limit on how many books from the library I have out at once. This was also a problem last year. I get request happy sometimes to get on the list because, sometimes, especially if there's a popular book, you need to get on a list. And so what happens is I'll be like, oh, I'm number 15. It'll be a while. Oh, I'm number 20. It'll be a while. Oh, I'm number 5. It'll be a while. And then they all come at the same damn time. So I'm going to limit it to 3 at a time instead of the 15 that I have out right now. Number 5, read the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. Friends, I have owned this book since 2021. It has 816 pages and it is a chunker. And I have been intimidated and I don't know why. I mean, Sarah J. Maas's last book, what is that book? Her last book, I'm looking at it. House of, one of the Crescent City books. That book was 848 pages. I mean, and I read that chunker in like 36 hours. Like, there's really no excuse for me not to have read that, to say, oh, it's too long. It's no excuse. So I'm going to read that this year. And last but not least, do not read a book because it's a popular book or a most anticipated book on someone else's list, because that leads to a DNF every single time. My tastes are very specific and I need to remember that, and only take recs from people who I know for a fact like the same types of books that I like, that I have taken and some recommendation from them before, and it worked. And also remember that some books that are trash by others may be gold to me. So basically, as my lovely ladies on the Currently Reading podcast says, as Meredith always says, reader, know thyself and stop, just basically go your own way, LaShawn. That is my goal for this year. And when I made my most anticipated books of the year, there were several books that I considered putting on the list, but I did not, because I'm like, just because it's popular, just because it's the it author, does not mean that it is for me. I learned that last year when I tried with Catalysis, when I tried with a couple of other books that everybody kept saying, oh, this is great. And I was like, what, Wild Dark Short? Not for me. And I need to be okay with that and just go my own way. My reading life will be a lot happier. Okay, so now that we've got my goals of the year out of the way, let's talk about the books that I am most looking forward to this year, my most anticipated books for 2026. There is a full list of 26 books, my entire list, that I'm going to link in the show notes. But today I'm just going to talk about 8. I'm going to talk about my top 8. Like I said, I could not decide between the last 2. There were too many options, and it was stressing me. So I'm just going to talk about these 8, and let's get into it. But if you want to see the whole list, like I said, it'll be in the show notes. My most anticipated book for 2026 is The Missed Connection with Tia Williams, which comes out June 16th. Let's talk about it. Sasha Cruz is a high-powered casting agent who's great at finding perfect matches except for herself. Relationships feel like a distraction until a chance encounter with a brooding Italian stranger on a flight to Paris leaves her convinced she's met her soulmate and lost him. Determined to track down Seat F, Sasha launches a global search that accidentally ropes her entire company as co-workers hunt for the mystery man and find unexpected love of their own. Sasha hires a swoony private detective only to discover that chemistry cannot always be cast. I'm fascinated by this. It reminds me of a little bit of Serendipity, you know that movie Serendipity, and something else that sounds familiar. But I always Tia Williams is like an auto-buy author for me, and I will always anticipate her books. I cannot wait. The second book on my list is The First Time I Saw Him by Laura Dave. Comes out today, January 6th. Let's talk about it. This is like the second book. The first one, The Last Time I Saw Him. Was it the last time I saw him? Yeah, it was the last time I saw him. I read that one a few years ago, but this is evidently the sequel, so I have to read it. 5 years after Owen vanished, Hannah Hall and her stepdaughter Bailey have rebuilt their lives in Southern California, finally learning to trust and feel safe again. But when Owen suddenly reappears at Hannah's art exhibition, it shatters their fragile peace and puts them back in danger. Forced on the run, Hannah and Bailey must confront the secrets they tried to leave behind while racing to survive. As the past closes in, Hannah risks everything to protect the girl she loves and discovers that hope for answers, healing, and even a second chance with Owen may still be in reach. I am fascinated because evidently this book picks up exactly where the last one left off. So if you read that one, you remember that last scene, it evidently picks up there. He wasn't just there for the visit. He wasn't just there to check on him. So that's all I'll say about that. The third book that I am looking forward to is Kin by Terari Jones, which comes out, when does it come out? It comes out February 24th. Motherless daughters, Vernice and Annie, grow up as inseparable neighbors in Honeysuckle, Louisiana, but destiny pulls them into radically different paths. Guided by a formidable aunt, Vernice escapes to Spelman College, where she enters a rarefied world of ambition, privilege, and inequality among powerful Black women. Annie, abandoned and consumed by the search for the mother who left her, follows a far more dangerous road filled with love, risk, and survival. As their lives diverge, both women confront how loss shapes identity, how the bonds of girlhood endure even when everything else falls apart. She is the author of The American Marriage, which, I'm going to be honest with you, was not one of my favorite books. Actually, I hate read that book. But this one sounds awesome. So I am going to read it. Get all the way up here. The next book on my list is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, which comes out March 24th. One split second choice after a concert changed Larissa's life forever. She didn't ride home with Chris, the man who would become her perfect match, but with his best friend, who became her boyfriend. Now, Larissa and Chris are inseparable as friends, co parenting a chaotic rescue Yorkie, swapping book recommendations, and judging bread, yet pretending their connection is only platonic. Chris wants nothing more than her happiness, even if it breaks his heart to stay silent. Trapped by loyalty and timing, they must face the painful question of how something that feels so right could completely be out of reach. Abby Jimenez is also an auto-buy author for me. Her book from last year was not my favorite of hers, but what I appreciate with her books are usually the characters the characters of all the books seem to interlock. It's like a universe. There's always an overlap character somewhere. And so now I have to go back and read the other book to see. I think it's the guy character who is an overlap. I don't know, but I got to see. But I love the premise of this one. And it is like her books always signal the beginning of the spring summer reading season for me. So I cannot wait to get my hands on that one in March. The next book that I'm looking forward to is Rights of the Starling by Devney Perry, which comes out April 7th. This is a sequel to a book of hers that came out last year, which was her first romantasy book. She is a prolific romance author. In fact, I'm currently maybe reading her latest offering. Maybe I'm not gonna say that I'm actually reading more than 3 books. But hey, anyway, let's talk about this one. Kalandra's 5 kingdoms teeter on the brink of destruction, and after a devastating attack, our main character is separated from the man she loves. Lost, hunted, and tasked with protecting a little girl, she must rise as the guardian. One fateful night of death, monsters, and shocking truths tests her courage and reveals the depths of her strength. Pressured to be a queen, spy, or sacrifice, Calandra faces a choice: embrace her destiny, uncover hidden secrets, and wield her power to save the realm and the man she loves. In a world of fear, she must confront the monster within. I was pleasantly surprised by this book, so pleasantly surprised when it came out. I had no plans on reading it, but my book bestie, Emily, was so excited about it, who, by the way, has not even read the book that she pressed into my hands. We'll get into that later. She's supposed to be reading it to starting today. But anyway, I started the book and could not put it down. I literally read all day and could not put that book down. So I am very eager to continue the story, so I cannot wait till this one comes out later this year. The next book on my list is Arsenio, a memoir by Arsenio Hall that comes out April 6th. Let's talk about it. In this candid memoir, Arsenio Hall recounts his unlikely rise from a Cleveland childhood where he hosted basement talk shows to redefining late night television with the Arsenio Hall Show. Along the way, he learned from Richard Pryor, bonded with icons like Eddie Murphy and Prince, and conducted groundbreaking interviews with figures from Tupac Shakur to Bill Clinton. Hall also reveals the personal cost of fame and the surprising decision to walk away at his peak. A lively behind the scenes portrait, the book celebrates a trailblazer who brought Black culture into America's living room and changed TV forever. If you grew up in the 90s, Arsenio Hall at 11 o'clock every night was something you look forward to. We didn't watch The Late Show with was Johnny Carson at the time, or who was the one who came after him? We didn't watch that. No, we watched Arsenio Hall because somebody good was going to be on there. It was going to be Jodeci. I still remember when Tribe Called Quest was on there and Busta Rhymes and Leaders of the New School and they did Scenario. I still remember that. I actually watched that episode live where Bill Clinton was on there. It's like an icon. I remember when Troop was on there singing live. It was I remember Eddie Murphy's interviews on there. It is literally like an icon. I don't I have to read this book. I really wanna read this book and hear his side of everything that happened. So, that I'm really excited about that one. The next book on my list is Fury Bound by Sable Sorensen, which comes out May 5th. This is another fantasy, and it is also the second book in a series that I did not intend to read. Against all odds, Marin Cooper has inherited the crown and a kingdom on the brink of war. With her bonded direwolf Anasa, with her bonded direwolf Anasa and loyal allies, she must navigate a fractured nocturna where nobles, commoners, and the bonded all question her rule. Her younger sister Selah faces danger, and Marin finds an unexpected ally in Stark Theron, the Dark Alpha, whose loyalty and both challenge and captivate her. As political intrigue mounts and shadows stir in her dreams, Marin must fight to protect her kingdom and her heart from the enemies closing in on every side. This I got the first book, Direbound, I got as an arc from Libro FM. I wasn't really interested in it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't checking for it. But when it was one of the free books, sometimes I'll just pick a book because I'm like, oh, I might read that eventually. Oh, it sounds like something good to pass the time while I'm cleaning or something. So I'll just get it. And I got it and I think I started listening to it, like I said, while I was cleaning and was immediately hooked. Immediately. I have listened to it. I have, I think, an ebook copy of this, but I am just going to go ahead and buy a trophy book for my bookshelf sooner or later by the time the second book comes out, because frankly, it's that good. It needs to live on my shelf. So I'm really looking forward to that one. The next book is Meet Me in the Garden by Nina LaCour, which comes out 8/4. This is a random book that I found. I don't even remember where I think I found this in one of the catalogs, but I was like, New Orleans, what is this about? Plus the author is of color. She's a Black woman. All right. New Orleans, 1944. Honoree has always stood apart from her glamorous Creole sisters, dreaming of love and a life as an artist. Only with her cousin Delphine can she share her secret, her love for women, while Delphine has her own forbidden romance. In their hidden garden, they imagine a future of freedom and passion. But 5 years later, Odette is a widowed mother in Los Angeles, and the cousins have drifted apart. When Delphine reaches the breaking point, Odette faces a devastating choice, one that could hold her family together or tear them apart. Those are the 8 books that I am going to talk about today that are on my most anticipated books for 2026. Like I said, there are 14 more books on my official list, which you can find below. I'll leave the link, but those are the main books that I'm looking forward to this year. And I must also point out that most of the books that are on my list are only up into July. There are a few books that I know that are coming out in the fall that I'm looking forward to, but they have not really announced them. And then, like, I know they're coming. The author themselves have said they're coming, but they haven't been announced. And then there are a few books that I know that are coming out in 2026, but they have not officially announced a date. So I didn't want to list them yet. For example, there's a fantasy book, a series she got traditionally published, and so now the last book has been pushed back a bit, but we do know it's coming out in 2026. So I'm really looking forward to that. And we are praying and hoping to the fantasy gods that Sarah J. Maas puts us out of our misery and releases the next Akatar book, because we have been waiting since she said she finished the shit. So we're like, girl, put us out our Bloomsbury. If you listening, put us out our misery. We really just want to read. We just want to read the book. We just want to know what happened to Azrael. That's really all we know. That's really all we care about. Anyway, now let's get into my current reads. I started off the year with a reread. I was in the car driving back from dropping off my mom, and I decided to listen to something familiar after needing to take a break from the book that I was currently reading, which I will talk about next. But in the meantime, so I reread Direbound by Sable Sorensen. You remember I was talking about on my most anticipated list. It was one of my favorite books of 2025. And it, like I said, it is a fantasy. And even though there are some parts of the book that are predictable and familiar, like, how can I put it? Think the Fourth Wing setting, a military like school, but with dire wolves instead of dragons. And instead of like whatever their thing was, it's vampires. And instead of a shadow daddy, just think of a mean hot alpha. But there's also another love interest in the majority of this book that is really a love interest. Not that he think he's a love interest, but he's really a love interest. So it was so basic, but told really well. And sometimes that's just what you need. I don't need something deep. I don't need in-depth characters. I don't care about any plot holes, even though this one really didn't have any plot holes. I'm not saying that at all, but you get what I'm saying. But the point is that it was entertaining. And sometimes that is exactly what you need from a book. And that's what a book is supposed to do. And this is my first time rereading this book since I read it last summer, I believe. Did it come out last summer or last spring? It came out last spring. And the second book, like I said earlier, comes out in May, and I am looking forward to it because, sometimes you just want some fun when you read. Everything is not serious. All right. So anyway, speaking of serious, my current read, I am currently reading Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. It is translated from Spanish. Now remember, friends, everything ain't for everybody. I just have to preface this with that. I have interesting taste in books sometimes, so you have been warned. Sometimes, I go off on a weird tangent, and this is one of them times. This is the book I took a break from because, child, let me just go ahead and get into the premise. Working at the local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, though no one is calling them that anymore. His wife has left him. His father is sinking into dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. After all, it happens so quickly. First, it was reported that an infectious virus had made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Then, governments initiated the transition. Now, eating human meat, special meat, is legal. Marcos tries to stick to numbers, consignments, and processing, and that's it. Then, one day he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Though he's aware that any form of personal contact is forbidden on pain of death, little by little, he starts to treat her like a human being. And soon, he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. Listen, y'all. I have so many feelings. This book has been lingering for like 2 weeks. And I have to finish it because I really need to be done reading it at this point. Not to say it isn't good. It is actually riveting. I'm fascinated. I'm also disgusted. And I'm also like, you did what, sir? I'm at 72% on this book, and I'm determined to finish this book this week just so I can stop reading it. But I'm also fascinated, and I really need to know how it ends. I am also reading The Bluest Eye, which is our first pick of the month, of the year, for the Poor Noble Books Book Club. You can still join us. Our first discussion isn't until Thursday, not of the entire book. I've divided the book up into sections, and so we are reading it over the whole month. But you can still join us, and you can even join us after that up until the last minute. You can do monthly, you can do for the year. It is a short book, so The Bluest Eye is easy to catch up. I'm already loving the DMs and emails that I'm getting about people in the book club reading the book. I am enjoying it, and I think this is going to be a great group. Next up on my TBR is Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Eaton, which comes out next week. I have an arc from Libro FM, so I will be listening to this. This will be my listening book. Ashley Eaton wrote one of my favorite thrillers, The First Lie Wins. So let's talk about this one. The premise. Everyone at Chantilly's bar is captivated by glamorous out of towner Camille Bayliss. But the woman in red heels is really Aubrey Price. Camille's life with her powerful lawyer husband looks perfect from the outside, yet she suspects he is hiding dangerous secrets and tracking her every move. Aubrey, haunted by a crime from her past, believes Benjamin Bayliss holds the key to the truth. Together, they switch places for one night to spy and uncover answers. By the morning, Ben is dead, and only one woman has an alibi. One mistake could destroy them both. Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. I'm also, let me see, what else am I reading? I'm reading that Regency romance that I mentioned earlier. That is my Kindle book. And as for my physical book, there are still 2 books left over from last year that I have not finished yet. And I will either pick up The Second Death of Locke or I'll pick up Our Vicious Oaths. One of the 2 needs to be finished by the time I talk to you next. Hopefully, I won't get distracted by another book. But anyway, that is all I have for you today, friends. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and find other bookish friends. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pornovabookspod@gmail.com. And you can also connect with me over on Pornova Books on Instagram or on my personal IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wilts. Thank you again, friends, for listening, and I will talk to you later, friends. Bye.